This is an exclusive presentation from Federated Media. Unholstered.
Here we go. It's time for another edition of Unholstered. Hopefully you're having a great weekend. My name is Kayla Blakesley, and I'm one of your hosts here on Unholstered.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sophia Rosales-Catina. I am your other host. I'm a captain with the Fort Wayne Police Department, and welcome back to Unholstered.
So glad you're here. If this is your first time tuning in, A, you can download the Unholstered podcast anywhere you download a podcast. B, this show is all about sharing and telling stories that don't get told that often, really, when it comes to law enforcement, not just here in the Allen County, Indiana area, but really across the entire country. And I always say it, Sophia, that statement could not be more true than it is today, because we're talking about flock safety. And I know this is a big one, especially when it comes to having the human trafficking conversation. But I want to get out of the way right now that there will be a moment during this program where I use the word flock as a verb. Flocking is what I think I called it last time, to flock. So we'll see. But first and foremost, who did you bring in to the studio today to talk about this?
Well, this morning I brought in a sheriff from a neighboring county. We're going to talk about an incident that happened there recently involving a young girl that was taken, and then some measures that they used not only there but in other areas throughout this country that really made a difference in getting her back here safely. So we'll talk about him, but right now I want to let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Scott Holliday. I'm the sheriff of Wells County. Our county seat's Bluffton, Indiana, and that's kind of where our jail and sheriff's office is. Sheriff
Holliday, I think it's important, at least for me, to start. I always say, Sophia's the pro, I'm the average Joe. When I hear flock safety, I don't actually really know what that means. I just said I tend to use the word flock as a verb. What is, quote, like flock safety? What's the definition of that?
Well, flock safety is actually a company name for license plate reader cameras.
Okay, so it's a brand.
Yep, it's a brand.
So flock safety is really taking a hold nationwide for law enforcement. It's a tool that we use. Basically what it is, it's like he said, it's a license plate reader, but it also identifies makes and models of cars as well. So it does a little bit more. They also have like a shot spotter. So if there's shots that go on in the area, they can pinpoint those to an area where they can send then police to investigate those shootings.
So is it like a physical camera?
Yes, there's a mounted camera on like a light pole or some kind of utility pole, and then it's pointed in directions. Those directions can be changed by the company. And then everything that camera reads then becomes, a file then that the police can use if they're looking for a particular car plate. Say there was a robbery at the Walmart and the car was like a white Nissan Sentra. And we didn't have a plate, but we could see every Nissan Sentra it would identify, and then it would hone in and give us a license plate number for each Nissan Sentra that went through the area. So it's fascinating stuff here, but there are a lot of people who think that this is another one of those Big Brother kind of type issues.
I was waiting for it, the old invasion of privacy.
Yes, yes. But we all know that you have no expectation of privacy on the roadways. So for me, it's that I'm going with what the law says, but I understand people's apprehension at times. But we have to have some kind of, middle ground here, because the uses, as we will hear shortly, is so overwhelmingly good, in my opinion, that it outweighs that bad.
Yeah, I mean, Sheriff Holliday, how would you respond to this claim that it's Big Brother, it's an invasion of privacy, this flock system? What would be your response to that?
Well, I think that, in today's age, a lot of the technology, I take people's right to privacy very seriously. We have rules and regulations and statutes we have to follow to not invade people's privacies. So we take those things seriously, but as law enforcement, we use tools in the job we do that the general public don't have access to. And so we're held at a high standard because of that reason, to not abuse the information and the access that we're available to. Criminal histories, I can't just run criminal histories on people for no reason. We have to have, either an arrest or an investigation, those type of things. So there's plenty of tools that we use that give us the authority for information, so to speak. So I do take it seriously. I think that good policy and what we do within our our agency and shared agencies is very important in what we do. There's audit systems set forth in this program that we can audit, just like we do with the system that runs criminal histories or runs license plates and those type of things. We get audited by the state so that agencies aren't misusing those things. And so the state can take those tools away from us.
Well, then hopefully that's a comfort, actually. I didn't know that to folks who are claiming, Big Brother, and not just for flock safety, but maybe for some other tools.
But I also say, in today's age, this is no different than the toll roads using license plates to read your plate and send you a bill when you go on the toll roads. Or I'm sure you
your
came
smartphone.
here.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
You came here today with a cell phone. If people don't think that somehow, whether it be an app or a company is not tracking your movements, we just had a Dickey's car wash that just built in Bluffton, and when you pull your car through there, it's got a license plate reader. It's what opens the gate and tells the company that you have a membership there to be able to get your car washed. So, if I drove from Ossian to Bluffton in the area where I live, I'm probably on, whether it be a Ring camera, someone's home security camera, a business security camera. So we're being tracked in a lot of ways that I think people are oblivious to in that sense. But again, in law enforcement, I do believe we're held at a high standard for what we do, because if we're not, you see it on the front pages of the newspaper.
Sure do. Okay. I just still need a little clarification of how this flock system then works. Is it something that you as a police department subscribe to or ask to be a part of? Because flock, as you said, it's its own brand, its own kind of, I'm going to call it software for lack of better terminology here, or what have you. So how does that work?
So it's a motion censored camera. So we're just in the process within the last 2 weeks here of getting 6 cameras put up in our community. And
so you have to go and apply for that?
Yep.
Or okay.
So we worked with Flock Safety. It's a subscription, basically. They own the cameras. We own the subscription and all the data that's supplied by those. Flock doesn't access any of that information. All the information that's gathered through those cameras are saved for 30 days, and then they're deleted. So it's stored in a secure cloud. It's available to us for investigative purposes for 30 days, and then it's gone. But if I can expand a little bit on what Sophia said, I can tell you what these cameras are not, and they're not surveillance cameras. Okay, they're not speed cameras. I get a lot of questions like that. Oh, you're going to track people that are speeding. Nope, we don't do that. And they're not surveillance cameras. They don't record live action video. It's a motion sensor. When a car passes it snaps a photo of the back of the car.
I see.
And so that information is gathered. The software program's pretty intelligent. It can, in the right lighting, which is most of the time, it can tell you color, make, and model of the car, which helps us in investigative purposes. So they are definitely not surveillance cameras in the sense that people think that we're spying and watching on people. Okay, and in my county, we put the cameras on the county lines, and what we focused on was putting these cameras where people are coming into our community in Wells County. So it's no secret where they are. We told the public where they're at, but most
people. This is relatively new for Wells County, right?
Yeah, well, the city of Bluffton has 4 of these flock cameras as well, but we're putting 6 on the perimeter. So as the elected sheriff, I mean, my top concern is public safety. And so I want to know what's coming into our community, whether it's wanted people, subjects that are on a hot list for maybe a suspect in a homicide and those type of things. So this will alert us. And so the way these things work is the car passes it, snaps a picture of it, and it records, like Sophia said, but it also runs it through IDAX and NCIC, which is state and national database. And if there's a hit on that vehicle, it's going to notify us within seconds. I mean, within less than 10 seconds, we'll get an alert on that vehicle once it passes our camera coming into our community. So our police officers have instant information that's sent to them.
That's incredible.
It sends it to our 911 center. but it also sends it to our police officers right to their cell phone, and it'll say, hey, we just got a hit on our northbound camera, and it'll tell us the reason, what it is. Now, that isn't probable cause for us to pull the vehicle over. We're still going to verify if we locate that vehicle. We're still going to run it through our dispatch, get the verification through dispatch that, yes, that is indeed the plate. These things are not 100% perfect. They're pretty darn.
Nothing ever is.
They're pretty darn close, but we need to verify. It's no different than somebody calls in a drunk driver. We get behind the vehicle, and there's a couple things we can do, but we need to verify that we have the probable cause to pull that vehicle over. And so that's how that instantaneous stuff works. So it's twofold. It can be used for instant alerts, and it can be also used in the investigative side. Like Sophia said, as a former detective, I would have loved to have this tool in what we do, because now we have a record over the last 30 days, so that if something did happen, we can get that information on a suspect vehicle and see if we can find, because we don't know. We're going to talk about this kidnapping we had in Zanesville, because all we had was a suspect vehicle, and we didn't have a plate number or nothing. And so we were able to use Flock's system, which is nationwide, so we do have the ability to search the entire system nationwide of other agencies that have these cameras up. And so if we get a hit on those, that's lead information we can use in cases that we're investigating.
Yeah, I want to talk about that kidnapping here in just a second, but I am curious, Sophia, do we have any of these cameras in Allen County and Fort Wayne?
We do not. We have talked about it. I think it was one thing that we had with the former chief. The new chief probably will get another discussion probably on his plate sometime soon. But as my understanding, we do not have any flock safety. They talked about another brand, which there are several brands out there. But to my knowledge, I don't think we have any. Now, this is a system that the general public can buy too. So if there's like a church or a apartment complex that has a high crime volume, they can actually call the company and privately purchase these or get into the subscription-based service and do this.
A little side note, that's actually how Flock started. They started with HOAs, a lot of areas, residential areas, where they were getting a lot of break-ins, robberies, those type of things. And so this company started on that premise of having cameras within neighborhoods that could help the police in solving crimes, and then eventually it morphed into, hey, this is working so good, we're going to bring this into the law enforcement field.
So then would hypothetically the bad guy, let's say, he pulls into an apartment complex and they have this Flock system, would it pop him in that scenario as well if a warrant was out for his arrest or what have you and his license plate showed up?
If the vehicle's registered to him.
Correct. Okay.
Correct.
Wow, I had no idea it was so expansive. I thought it was just a police department thing.
No, I mean, you could do like Glenbrook Mall, for instance, if they wanted to install these for, incidents that they may have and people coming and going, especially theft, those kinds of things, and they could assist police with those, because we have this is something we don't talk about here, it's not in the major news, but we have lots of thefts, like theft rings that go around just stealing from stores and different stores all over town. So imagine if those stores all put these Flock systems up and they were able to give us information on these vehicles that are coming and going and the cases we could build on people that way. So there really is a lot to this. And I think the discussion needs to be had, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell I have a million questions, and you can tell how much I don't know about this. I feel like with the question, I feel like we usually, Sophia, I have like an inkling of everything that we're talking about. I've got nothing. Here I thought, Flock was a verb that tells you where I'm at on this. So
it's flocking crazy, isn't
flocking. It is. See, it's going to stick. It's going to stick. You heard it here first. Okay, so obviously then these systems, they could work across state lines. They could work really wherever these cameras are posted. How do they work, to solve crime? And I want to use this kidnapping. And again, Sheriff, forgive me, because I don't know what I can or we can or cannot ask, because I'm sure there are things that you still can't talk about in terms of
you can always
kidnapping.
ask it. I don't always have to answer it.
Well, I mean, to me, it's like, well, how did the system work to solve this crime? I mean, walk us through.
Well,
I guess,
it was a
what you
piece.
can.
It wasn't the piece that actually solved the crime, but it was without it would have been much harder, and the response would have been a lot longer. So, we had an 11-year-old. We get a call of an 11-year-old missing, and the only information we have is, somebody had some home camera.
Where was she from?
She was from Zanesville.
Okay.
Which is right at the very corner of our county. Actually, part of it's in Allen County. So, but yeah, we get this call. 11-year-old went outside and didn't return. And as the reports start coming in, we get reports of a white van. That white van was seen by people, but it was also on camera, and somebody had a makeshift camera in the front of their residence. So we did get an actual view side shot of this van. And so a lot of time and energy was spent searching the area, obviously, because we didn't know if that tied together or not. Once we exhausted that search area, then we set up a command team. And, again, I can't share everything, but some of the information we gathered through this van, and like Sophia said, if you search for a white van in the system, you don't realize how many white vans there are until you're looking for a white van. And so just a white van alone in the flock system, we're going to get hundreds, if not thousands, of hits.
Can you pare that down to, like, say, Wells County? Is that how that works when you're in the system?
Correct,
Van,
but
Wells
obviously we didn't have cameras up at the time.
Right.
And so it's a lot of information to go through. Mm-hmm. And so with just a kind of a grainy black and white video, basically, of a white van, that's a lot of photos to go through. And so, like I said, it could be thousands and thousands of white vans that passed cameras, at least within this general area. And so through further investigation, we had help from state police, the Fusion Center, which is very good. They brought techs down, and they do a lot of the electronic stuff, cell phone search, computer searches, and those type of things. And so we got some information that there was possible communication with somebody in South Dakota. And so somebody from Bluffton Police Department's agency, they have flock cameras. They searched the system for a white van with South Dakota plates. So what's the odds that a South Dakota plated white van is going to be in Indiana? And the minute they did, we got a hit instantly in Steuben County. And so then we got another hit again in Stark County and then Porter County.
And these were all areas that obviously had these flock systems in place.
And so as we're getting these hits, we're also getting a picture of the van. It looks pretty much an exact match to what we saw on the surveillance camera in the neighborhood where the girl come up missing. So as we're getting these hits, like I said, we got it in Steuben and then Stark and Porter County, and so we know that they're heading in the direction of at least Chicago, if not South Dakota. And so because of those flock hits, we were able to obtain a search warrant for a particular number that we had tied the South Dakota plate to, and then that helped get a search warrant to get live pings on a cell phone. And once we got that warrant for that, then we knew their exact location, at least within a couple minutes. And so we were tracking them through Wisconsin and getting authorities. At the time, we didn't have a plate number. Sophia probably knows better than me. I learned this, that without the plate number, even if we had the state, we couldn't do a nationwide Amber Alert. We could only do a Silver Alert.
Without the plate?
Without the plate. If we had the state, they would have done the Amber Alert, but not the Silver. So we did a Silver Alert, which is only statewide.
Right.
And so we were set up in a church in Zanesville, and I felt like it was the Situation Room. We had multiple investigators, and again, State Police Fusion Center, and we sat down, and we're getting live pings every 15 minutes of where they're at, and it was close to Dodgeville, Wisconsin, and so we literally got online and Googled the sheriff's agency that was there, contacted their 911 center, said, hey, we have a Silver Alert, possible abduction. We believe them to be in this area. They're driving a white van. And so we had a speakerphone in the middle of the table, and it felt like the Situation Room with the president type thing. But it was neat to watch. As a sheriff, I get tied up in office a lot. And, the political side of it and dealing with council and commissioners and all the things that go along with being a sheriff.
Let me make you hit the pause button here, too, because I'm on the edge of my seat. I mean, I know the end of the story, but how much time has gone by now from the initial?
So I got the call about 4:30 in the afternoon, and by the time we found her, it was 2 in the morning.
In Wisconsin.
Well, about 1 in the morning.
When you're getting these pings, you're getting.
Yeah, it's about midnight, 1 in the morning,
Okay.
and so as we're getting the pings, we get a hold of the agency, we get all the information to them, and so they're out scouring the highway that we believe them to be on, and of course they're dealing with an ice storm and everything else out there at the time, but they end up locating the vehicle, and they got a stop on it, and they were able to recover the 11-year-old and the 3 suspects in there. And so, but it was long awaiting. We do felony stops on vehicles. We got the van stopped, and we're waiting to hear and get confirmation that she was in the van. Seemed like an eternity, which was probably about 20 minutes, but they confirmed that she was in there. They had the other 3 suspects in custody, and like I said, I think that was between 1 and 2 in the morning we had it done. So in less than, half that time was spent searching. Yeah. I mean, we had helicopters out, we had fire department, we had multiple canines out searching the area. It was a very wooded area where she come up missing. So a lot of time and resources and hours were spent initially. I mean, we were doing investigative stuff, a lot of gathering at that time, but it wasn't until we really sat down probably around 9-10 o'clock that we really started narrowing in on the investigative side and using the tools that were available to us to help lead to that. So again, Flock didn't solve it, but it was a major part of helping us, just one piece of that puzzle investigative tool that led us to her recovery. So,
was it part of a human trafficking ring or smuggling for human trafficking?
We don't believe that, at least for what we know at this point, we don't believe there to be a bigger ring, but who knows? We're still serving search warrants on this case.
Gotcha.
We're still doing, media.
Yeah, I knew it was still kind of active and open. That's why I didn't know what we could and could not
So
ask.
all 3 of them are still in our facility. The one, the main suspect is being held on a $500,000 bond. He currently right now, initially they were all charged with kidnapping. Until we got them back, we have added charges to the main suspect at this point for the human trafficking, for child molest, and child solicitation, and he still has the kidnapping charge. So he has multiple charges. The other 2 suspects still have kidnapping. They may have additional charges. At this point, we haven't added them yet as we get through our investigation and we learn more information through this. So,
do you think that we would have had this outcome, or you would have had this outcome, without the Flock system?
I think we would have. It would have been probably a lot longer, and who knows what would have happened.
And Lord knows what could have happened.
Yeah, who knows what. I mean, time is the essence in anything, whether it's a homicide investigation or, kidnapping. Time is of the essence, and who knows? I look back pre-cell phone. Do I think maybe they would have been, or this young girl would have been in this situation pre-cell phone? I don't know, but who knows? It would have been a long time, maybe days before.
Was there communication happening on the other end of a cell phone? Then I'm assuming.
Yeah, there's some communication through. I say this, pay attention to what your kids are doing, whether it be.
We talk about that all the time on here.
I'm sure you do. Whether it be social media apps to even video games to computer games. There's chat options. We've done the human trafficking PSAs with agencies and stuff before, and I've been to some trainings, and I'm like, holy cow! I even some of these places, I don't even know half the names of some of these things where kids communicate nowadays. It's amazing, and there's always another one coming up behind it for them to use.
Yeah.
At 16, she'll get a flip phone, my kid. And even then, I'll think about it. I'll think about her getting a flip phone.
Yeah.
Sophia, you mentioned we don't have any in Allen County in the Fort Wayne area, these Flock cameras or this Flock system. But I mean, kind of circling back to this whole Big Brother invasion of privacy, when you hear a story like that, I can't help but be like the world's biggest champion, for this Flock system. Have we had any other instances around, and maybe I guess this question could be to either one of you, to where that this system has helped bring justice to some degree, whether it's from a neighboring state, someone coming into Indiana, or vice versa, like the story that you're telling? Have we seen a lot of, I'm going to call them success stories from this system?
I think the system in itself has a lot of success, and it's not just with these grand cases like this, but the smaller ones. And honestly, I think when we're talking about these big elaborate things, you always wonder like how many times these suspects have tried to do this before. How many times have they failed?
Yeah.
How did they fail? And to pull off something like this, it doesn't seem like this would probably be their first time.
Right.
Because this is huge. You're going from South Dakota to little Indiana, Wells County, Indiana. I mean, to me, that's huge. So I would imagine they've probably at least attempted to do this somewhere else.
That's why I asked the ring question. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if this was a part of something a little bit bigger.
And you know what? I won't say it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I know that these can be very
chances are
intricate.
it's not their first time.
Yeah.
And these systems are very intricate. They always have some kind of leader, but there's also just a bunch of crazy people out there as well.
Yeah, I want to go back just on your question about was there communication and everything else, and by no means I want to stress the girl's 11, and regardless to whether she did or didn't.
Amen. Yes, good point. Very good point.
Yeah, these people knew better. To not know that she's 11 years old. They knew better, and none of that blame goes on her.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yep.
There's some real sickos, and we've talked about that on the show. We've talked about the video game, the chats, in there, which you have to monitor what your kids are doing because these people they're not dumb.
Yeah.
They get in there and they befriend these kids, and these kids just go off thinking it's another teen or another friend or someone their age, and it turns out to be, someone who's has some very ill intent. And, just as a word of caution, human trafficking is about to become the world's biggest moneymaker, overcoming arms and drugs, because
which is so sick when you think about the demand.
It
right?
is. It is. But think about it.
sickening.
You can only sell a gun once. You can sell a pill once.
Correct.
But you can sell a child multiple times a day, multiple times a week, multiple times a year. It's disgusting. So people like
Special
this,
place in hell for those people.
yeah. I don't even think that's bad enough.
Yeah,
but.
same. We're way up against the clock, but I think I already know the answer to this question from both of you, but I still want you to answer it as briefly as humanly possible. After just hearing this story, and again, your other experiences with the flock system, do you think they should be implemented everywhere?
Yes.
That was brief.
You know what?
Can't
I'm
get much
coming
more
from a
brief
pure
than
law
that.
enforcement. I understand people's concerns, but we have, like Sheriff Holliday said, we have so many other tools that are at our disposal that have just as much as information as what we're getting from these systems. You can't tell me that we're going to abuse this system when we haven't really abused the other systems either. And there are mechanisms in place.
Or I always get, what about the next sheriff? What about the next person that puts things in? And so those are questions I get. And you know what? The people, a little different than the police chief who gets appointed by the mayor, but I get elected by the people.
Right.
And so if I don't do a good job, I'm not going to get reelected. I am in my second term.
So you must be doing something right, Sheriff.
I say that because we're term limited in Indiana for sheriffs, so this is my last term, and I hope I set a good foundation and good principles and good policy for what we have in place, and so that the next person come in, there's transparency in what we do. We could do a whole segment on transparency and social media and things that, those are things that I've implemented as sheriff, with the community to try to provide this transparency of what we do. Again, this is not a secret. This is tools to help keep people safe. And if you're not out doing anything wrong, there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to worry about with these cameras. We're not going to get notified that you're going. I don't know whether you're going to Walmart or if you're going to church. I have no clue when that picture is taken of your vehicle, what you're doing.
Yeah.
But it's there to help keep you safe, keep our community safe. And that's what I was elected to do.
Well, Sheriff, you're clearly doing a good job because Sophia would not have brought you in as a guest if you weren't. Let's just put it that way. As always, if you've missed any previous episodes of Unholstered, you can download the podcast anywhere you download a podcast. Your town, your team, your topics. This is Unholstered.
Thanks for listening to Unholstered. Be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search Unholstered.
Podcasts by Federated Media.